developments on the invitation of the governments of several member states who are particularly interested in trying to change the situation. This is because what we heard described about Bulgaria is paradise. It's heaven compared with what we see in Hungary. Because Hungary is de facto hijacked by one political party. And the situation has been created that makes it impossible to reverse the situation by the same legal means. So we don't depend on elections in any way, no matter how legal they are or how illegal they are, because all the legal framework has been kidnapped and changed by one party. So I think it's important to mention this in an event like this one, because if we have a problem in Europe, then this problem is Hungary. And if we have a problem in Europe, then this problem is very, very special compared with all the rest, compared with Bulgaria, compared with the challenges that the European Union is facing, because Hungary actually is a problem which is created by law and through law. So what happened in Hungary? Fidesz, one of the rightist political parties, let's say, comes to power, and then, although the state of Hungary functioned in a perfectly reasonable sense. It had a famous, by now, constitutional court with a great tradition. It had an unquestionably functioning electoral system and other aspects of law and politics. That party decides to change the constitution. And besides changing the constitution, it decides to overhaul the whole system by also writing 400 new laws. This has happened because that party enjoyed the constitutional majority in the government, and it deployed its own constitutional majority of 2/3, which was enough in order to write a new constitution, in order to change the system in such a way that any kind of electoral change would not actually be possible. So what do we have in terms of current developments? Everything has been made in accordance with the law. But the results are very strange, and they go very deeply into the fabrics of the very organization of the state. So all the possible opposition that Fidesz would encounter on all the sides was crushed. The most important opposition force was, of course, the Constitutional Court, or likely to be. So the drafters of the Constitution chose to use the change of the constitutional regime, even though there is a clear continuity between the old constitution and the new, as a pretext in order to reform the constitutional court, as it were. So they packed it. They simply added plenty of new members, totally changing the way how the court functions. That was not enough, however. So in the new constitution, they cut the scope of possible intervention for the court, making the court basically not only inofficial, but an almost irrelevant actor in the current state structure of the Hungarian state. At the same time, the unicameral parliament remains, so there is no check by the second chamber on the laws that are being passed. What are the results of this? So the destroyed court and curtailed possibilities of the judiciary are then matched by the possibility of a unicameral parliament with an absolute majority to pass any law. In practice, this sometimes happens on one Saturday night by a private member bill. So on Sunday morning, you have a law that can reframe one of the fundamental aspects of the legal system in the country. This happened many times. So in order to ensure that not only the Constitutional Court, but also other courts don't say a word against this kind of change, the pension laws, and especially the obligatory retirement age laws were changed, so that all the judges which had the guaranteed tenure until 70 under the old constitution were obliged to retire at 62. This means that by cutting the serving age of all the judges by 8 years, Hungary ensured that all the presidents of all the local courts throughout the country had to go, because all the senior judges had to leave in 1 second. This is a very strange approach to constitutional reform. clearly they were afraid of the judiciary. But they went slightly further. So they set the president of the Supreme Court, which is another highest court in the country, under the pretext that he was not qualified for the office since he served as a judge at the Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. So he didn't have enough experience as a judge within the Hungarian system in order to serve as the president of the Supreme Court. So the system of the courts is pegged. I add one more thing. Pegging is not enough. You need to ensure that only the right people enter the system. So for that, the Higher Council of Judiciary was introduced, which actually appoints judges and can also remove them. And the president of the Council of the Judiciary is the wife of the member of parliament who actually drafted the constitution. He probably tells us that he typed his constitution on his iPad during the sessions of parliament because he worked so hard. No alternative documents were ever discussed, and the constitution was passed instantly in less than 1 year. So his wife, who is a faithful supporter of the same party, is in charge of appointing judges now. And under the changes, recent changes to the constitution, she also acquired the right to move cases from one court to another at will, using the pretext of an increasing case burden in a particular court, a particular chamber. So what does it mean? Any slightly politically sensitive cases are always removed from the judges who are not affiliated with the governing party. There was an outcry at all the levels of international, supranational observation of what's actually going on around Europe. So we have two critical reports of the Venice Commission. The third one, which now exists in draft but is not yet public, is the harshest document by far that the Venice Commission has ever released. As I'm hearing, we have the interest of the member states in doing something about this, and the deployment of Article 7 of the EU Treaty was seriously discussed, which would simply block voting rights of Hungary in all the institutions. But the question then arises whether the deployment of Article 7 will result in any change on the ground. And sensing the resentment of the international community and the fellow member state of the European Union, Fidesz goes even further. So having started with the court, they went on to tackle the election laws. And the election laws were very subtly changed through the gerrymandering of the whole territory of the country. So all the electoral district borders were changed in order to ensure that the country will get absolute support the next time around as well. The same party. How do we know that it will get absolute support? There is a very activist professor at Princeton who is actually the head of the Law and Public Affairs program, which is like an equivalent of the law school, if you will, that doesn't teach but only does research. At Princeton University, one of the most highly regarded scholars in her field, who asked several colleagues to run a computer program using all the statistical data available from previous Hungarian elections to see what the outcomes would be under the current bordering of the electoral districts. And the outcome is always Fidesz, 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 absolute majority. That's not enough. So to that, Hungarians decided to add another interesting, Hungarians, the Fidesz members, decided to add another interesting moment. And in order to make election absolutely uncontrollable under any circumstances. So they use the key minorities language in order to ensure that that Fidesz support grows also outside of Hungary among the people who can vote. So what has been done? They distributed Hungarian passports to the Hungarian king in the neighboring countries and ensured that this has been done, the right for Hungarians to apply has been extended also to the countries which don't tolerate dual nationality. And there are plenty of those around Hungary where Hungarians live. Not only Austria, but especially Slovakia. Also Ukraine. What are the consequences of this? If you accept the Hungarian passport in such circumstances, then by law of the country of your residence and nationality, you will lose your first and the most cherished passport. So you will actually not be the national of the country where you reside. There is a clear clash in nationality laws. So in order to protect those citizens, Fidesz introduced a bill offering them a secret option for citizenship, if you want. So those countries whose laws don't allow for this kind of nationality will then not be informed. And in order to ensure that they don't get any information about this, these people are also put on secret voters lists. So since those lists are secret, obviously the outcomes which are revealed cannot be checked by anyone. And we're speaking about 500,000 of voters. So in this kind of circumstances, the country is totally kidnapped by one extreme nationalistic and anti-European party, and it's highly unlikely that anything will change by itself. So in informal conversations with the diplomats accredited there who are actually thinking about the problem, a very grim picture emerges because the member states of Western Europe who are trying to change the situation predict that what we're facing is a kind of a Belarusization of that part of Central Europe. So the same party will most likely stay in power for 20, 30 more years, and the European Union cannot do anything legal. There was one victory, and if there will be time in the question time, I will speak about that victory when the European law was successfully deployed against one of those obnoxious laws. Thank you very much.
So, any questions, comments? Yes, please.
Just 1 minute to add just a thing to the very interesting things that Dimitry just said. If I remember well, the only public reaction of the President of the European Commission about what was going on in Hungary was a press release when he pointed only one thing, the only important thing for him, the independence of the Hungarian Central Bank. Nothing else.
Yes, Dimitry, please. Dimitry, what questions?
Since there is a little bit of time, I will use your attention for 1 more second. In order to speak about the one minor success of the European Union in fighting this constitutional takeover in Hungary. And that was the second reaction next to the independence of the central bank problem. Because obviously in the European Union, discrimination on the ground of age is absolutely prohibited. So when you tell the judges, suddenly you have to retire 8 years earlier than what you thought, then we can present that as an age discrimination, because no special arrangements for pensions, etc., were ever provided. They were simply told, we have a new constitution, we have new judges, go away, basically. So the European Union, in order to rely on something really binding in the legal framework, relied on, and now I'm speaking about the Commission, relied on the age discrimination provisions and a special directive on that issue. And the Commission brought a successful case to the European Court of Justice, which was won. But then, so all the judges had to be reinstated, as the Court of Justice found. The trouble is that, in fact, this kind of victories can be Pyrrhic victories as well, because the Hungarian government in power offered lump sums to all the judges, covering, amounting to much more than 8 years of pay. So basically, plenty of people, we're all human beings, right? They simply chose the money. And those who were ideologically the biggest supporters of the ruling party preferred to serve rather than take the lump sum. So as a result, we have a much worse situation in the judiciary now, in the mid to long term, than before the Commission intervened. But at least there was some sign to Hungary that was sent by the European Union that not everything is going perfect, and that the European Union is ready to do something. Although once again, it didn't lead to any concrete improvement on the ground.
Thank you. Some questions, comments?